Yesterday morning, John Brennan, the CIA director that served under President Obama from 2013 to 2017, testified before the House Intelligence Committee as part of their investigation into Russia and the Trump campaign. Now, before we get into it, does anyone still feel that the House Intel Committee has any credibility at this point in their investigation of Trump-Russia? I certainly don't. So this was powerful testimony, but yes, it was in front of a committee riddled with scandals, like when former committee chair Devin Nunes was running to the White House to tell Donald Trump what the committee had, lunatic ideologues like Trey Gowdy asking bogus questions at committee hearing after hearing. But okay, that's where John Brennan testified. Let's focus on the testimony for now. John Brennan, who is the person that the Trump administration often cites as having said, hey, Brennan said there's no evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. Brennan has since walked back that claim and said he cannot say with certainty whether there is evidence proving or disproving collusion between Donald Trump and Russia. And the key point is that while Brennan is not necessarily, on anyone's side, for lack of a better term, he's definitely not defending Trump here the way that the White House has been portraying him to be some great defender of Trump being squeaky clean. Yesterday, former CIA Director John Brennan told the House Intel Committee that during the 2016 election, he was briefed on intelligence that showed, quote, contacts and interactions between the Russian government and members of the Trump campaign. We knew that, right? We knew that there were communications between Russia and members of the Trump campaign. But Brennan yesterday emphasized the interactions multiple times, and I was sort of enlightened to hear how concerned he was about this. Take a listen to what John Brennan had to say.
I encountered and am aware of information and intelligence that revealed contacts and interactions between Russian officials and U.S. persons involved in the Trump campaign that I was concerned about because of known Russian efforts to suborn such individuals. And it raised questions in my mind, again, whether or not the Russians were able to gain the cooperation of those individuals. I don't know whether or not such collusion, that's your term, such collusion existed. I don't know. But I know that there was a sufficient basis of information and intelligence that required further investigation by the Bureau to determine whether or not U.S. persons were actively conspiring, colluding with Russian officials.
So what Brennan is saying here is that he was particularly concerned about the communications between Trump associates and Russian associates because Russia tends to bribe and blackmail people. Now, he is the former CIA director, so he didn't say anything about what has been determined as a result of that by the current ongoing investigations. Republicans immediately tried to frame this as, hey, Brennan went up there and said there's no evidence of collusion. No, what Brennan said is, when he used to be CIA director, here's what he was aware of, and here's why he was concerned about it. He couldn't speak to whether collusion did or didn't take place or has been determined to have taken place. The guy is no longer doing the investigation.
And it seems like whenever these intelligence officials testify to Congress, they're always just confirming news reports from even months ago.
Yeah.
And they never come out with any major blockbusters. So it is surprising that Republicans are trying to preempt that and trying to get them to contradict what the media is saying.
Absolutely. And it didn't work. I mean, John Brennan was, if you watch this, you could tell this guy was not going to be tricked into saying anything. John Brennan also saying at this hearing, quote, frequently, individuals who go along the treasonous path do not even realize they're along that path until it gets to be a bit too late, which is an interesting comment, to say the least. How did Republicans who had their turn with Brennan handle it? They basically tried to downplay the investigation, defend Donald Trump. They didn't really do a very good job of it. It was pretty transparent. I watched about an hour of this yesterday. They kept trying to get Brennan to say, there is no evidence of collusion, but Brennan kept repeating, I was concerned by the contacts, and I can't judge whether there was or wasn't collusion. Brennan didn't feel qualified. And this is what, when you look at right-wing media after something like this, their headline was, Brennan can't say there's collusion. Brennan refuses to say there's collusion. Brennan said he's not in a position. It's like saying if you bring your mail carrier in and you question them and you say, can you confirm that there was collusion? No, I'm just a mail carrier. I can't confirm that. Mail carrier says no collusion. No, what they said is they're not in a position to comment on whether there was collusion. And that is what John Brennan was saying here.
And Brennan saying, I don't know, is just, I don't know. It's nothing further than that. It's not like he's saying, well, I can't really comment on this in a public setting. And you can see why both sides, I guess, would try to twist his words to fit some narrative.
No doubt about it. But there is some objective reality about what he did say. And the general idea of the Republicans is downplay the entire thing like there's nothing to see here. That becomes more and more difficult to do when we know that Donald Trump asked the director of national intelligence and the director of the NSA to publicly lie and say, oh, no evidence, no collusion between Trump and Russia. Trump asked former FBI Director James Comey to stop investigating Michael Flynn, was an important part of the investigation, then fired Comey, admitting that part of it was to ease the pressure on him because of the Russia investigation. And now the former director of the CIA is confirming, yeah, there was communication between Trump and Russia. The idea of, oh, this is all just completely overblown. Republicans had an opportunity at this hearing. You could even argue that they had a duty to really question John Brennan in the service of finding out more about whether or not the president colluded with a foreign adversary. That's something that should go beyond politics. But instead, these Republicans waste time with John Brennan playing silly political games, trying to use semantic tricks on John Brennan, trying to make the investigation look frivolous, sweep everything under the rug. Republicans haven't even been responding with that much disapproval after we found out that Trump asked the DNI and director of the NSA to lie to the public and say there's no evidence of collusion. And former CIA Director Brennan also criticized Trump for sort of blurting out this Israeli intel to Russians in the Oval Office. Take a look at this other clip from Brennan's hearing.
Two protocols are, one is that such intelligence, classified intelligence, is not shared with visiting foreign ministers or local ambassadors. It's shared through intelligence channels because it needs to be handled the right way, and it needs to make sure that it is not exposed. He didn't do that, if the press charges are accurate. Secondly, before sharing any classified intelligence with foreign partners, it needs to go back to the originating agency to make sure that the language in it is not even just providing a substance going to reveal sources and methods and compromise the future collection capability.
Yeah, so what John Brennan is saying there is your everyday run-of-the-mill spy recruiting Russian ambassador should not casually be told about information that would presumably be handled with extreme care. But that's not what Trump does because, as we know, he wanted to brag to the Russians about the great intel that he gets. Send me your thoughts about John Brennan. Send me your thoughts about Trump lawyering up. I'm on Twitter at @DPakman. The show is on Twitter @DavidPakman Show.